I give away free Steam games with every major video I do, and here's who won this week. The games available to receive are listed below. To enter, just leave a comment and have contact information on your profile. And now, on with the video. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week, on the chopping block. This week I decided I'd concluded my playthrough of Starfield. As I've been making these videos, and inevitably concocted a script preempting almost every single one, I find that word choices become increasingly important in the planning stages. The use of adequate descriptors, avoiding being overly repetitive, and indeed deploying literary devices such as foreshadowing. Microsoft's Bethesda's Todd Howard's Starfield has technically been on my plate since about the end of January or early February. I've been somewhat of a fan of Bethesda's work since Fallout 3, and I've probably done about half a dozen separate Skyrim runs over the years, so the promise of a Bethesda RPG in space had some appeal. I acquired my copy when it was revealed that physical box versions were getting pulled from certain retailers with no promise of a future restock, and I'll be damned if I'm forking out for another subscription of which I'd be getting questionable use from with Game Pass. So, after installation, I began my campaign with an intense and riveting shift in a space mine. Eventually, your job takes you to a mysterious rock outcropping that causes you to hallucinate on the job, so you get sent to the nurse's office for a character creation and a drug test. Pick your appearance, background, pronouns if you feel so inclined, and then the game starts proper.
F***ing pronouns! F***ing gender ambiguity!
I swear, this man has more functioning hair follicles than he does brain cells. Anyways, baiting socially maladjusted man babies aside, the first issue is present in the start of the game, or rather I should say the first issue is the start of the game. The mining session is 100% entirely unnecessary. Bethesda could have literally started the game at the character creator and then have glossed over the opening 20 minutes of the game with a sentence or two. Bethesda's openings have a history of less than stellar design decisions, but eventually I was presented with the hook of the main campaign. Effectively, I'm approached by a representative of an organization that can be described as space archaeologists, explorers, and adventurers. That rock that gave you visions is apparently part of a set, and he wants you to find the rest and discover their secrets. As I progressed through these interactions, laced with the classic Bethesda face and conversation tree formula, for better or for worse, I found another problem that kept me from ever becoming fully immersed. My dialogue options seemed to be someone who is always eager to do whatever is needed, give a contrary answer, or openly seeking to exploit whatever interaction to his benefit, when my genuine roleplay would have been more akin to the Saitama, okay, face. A minor quibble that may be entirely subjective, but my unenthused attitude betrayed my sentiment on the game's story and design philosophy. I was almost entirely uninterested in the game's main story progression, so I eventually started chasing down side quests and found some intrigue in a goal to aid the Galactic Military Organization and save it from an invasion of biologically designed superweapons. This has always been a positive side of Bethesda games, in that if you've gotten bored with the main storyline, you can almost always find something to divert your attention, which is good because even after awakening my space superpowers by playing a modern equivalent of Superman 64, I found the main campaign to just be significantly lacking in stakes and intrigue. This was compounded by an issue of overwhelming scope in the game, which may be considered a fancy way of saying that the game has too much stuff in it. Everywhere you turn, it seems to be throwing something new at you, and it can be too much for the average player to handle. Between the game's combat and weapon systems, crafting systems, an irritating lack of storage in my playtime, the ability to build on a home planet of your choice, shipbuilding, planetary scanning and codex filing, spaceship flight and combat, and likely a few other things that I'm forgetting at the time of writing, each system has an impressive amount of depth to it, and a more narrowed down version would have worked well in past Bethesda games, but it gives me a feeling of a father seeing you enjoy playing with a Lego set and decide that you'll probably have an equally good time reassembling a 98 Subaru station wagon. Yeah, getting down to the most basic level, it's a similar prospect that you're rebuilding something, but the knowledge and scope expansion required to get your head around it is likely going to overwhelm anyone that didn't already have an explicit interest in it. So, my attention would consistently ricochet away whenever Starfield tried to introduce a new mechanic. Eventually, I found myself attempting to fall into Bethesda RPG rhythms when I pick up a quest, follow the objectives needed to get there, and cut down the fools who stood in my way with lasers and lead. However, I began to encounter even more hurdles that kept throwing speed bumps in my path. First being the level of my opponents versus myself becoming increasingly spongy. Second is the way the game tried and utterly failed to present a seamless galaxy. I had a similar issue when I tried playing the Outer Worlds. Given how you're trekking between multiple planets, which usually necessitates numerous menus and stages for fast traveling, I began to become jaded to the different worlds and features around me because unless there was a new area with an objective marker that it was pointing me to, I found myself navigating via menu rather than walking and taking in the atmosphere. Bethesda took the vastness and majesty of space and made it tedious to explore. Finally, the Bethesda formula of RPG has, in my opinion, started to outstay its welcome. While their mechanical systems can be described as deep, the connect-the-dots story progression and structure can be comparatively described as a kiddie pool. The characters and their stories are a bit more engrossing, but they don't save the other downfalls of the formula that have been getting put through the ringer of scrutiny since Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Now, at the time of writing, I put in about 20 hours into my playthrough of Starfield, which admittedly hasn't been enough to see the end or get any narratively satisfying conclusion. However, I ask you this. Over Over the past several weeks, I've had my copy sitting in my Xbox, beckoning me to continue, but when the desire to continue playing is less than the compulsion to clean my kitchen or find something else to play instead, would you consider that a worthwhile game regardless of the names or studios behind it? I don't dislike Starfield, but I don't like it either, though. It's just kind of there. On a technical level, it's kind of impressive, but Bethesda needs to stop relying on Todd Howard and his archaic design conventions. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a writing bug I need to get out for next week.
Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.